Welcome, everybody. Uh, Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is for you. Uh, it's 5 o'clock here, I think. Time to bust out the Crown Royal. I'm just kidding. I wanted to do a little introduction for this channel, and I figured what better way to do an introduction than a long form uh, detailing, cleaning video. So, uh, yeah, I decided with the pollen season in full swing, it was time to. It's not even in full swing, actually. Excuse me, it's just beginning. And if you guys saw the short, you know they're not playing around these trees. Okay, these trees, they don't care. They don't care about your paint. They don't care about your car. They don't care about your windows. They hope you get in an accident. Maybe not that far. Uh, Trees are cool. But yeah, I wanted to clean up the car, and I guess it's perfect to introduce myself because I got a lot of time. Could put some good music behind it. Maybe someone can fall asleep to this video. Who knows? But this is ears. E.A.R.S. Extreme Amateur Restoration Specialists. And my dad actually came up with this idea probably 2 years ago, I'd say. And when he said it, I was like, wow, it's not a bad idea. So I said, well, I should capitalize on this. I didn't until now. And honestly, up until recently, I wasn't capitalizing on anything. Um, but the ears, it just stuck with me because it makes sense. I mean, when I think about it, it sounds about right. I am an amateur. Sometimes I get a little extreme. I like to restore things, and you could say I specialize in it. Well, I have been specializing in it for maybe 2 years now. 3 years. Probably, probably two at the max. I started with a go-kart. Well, actually, technically, uh, I haven't fully restored anything yet. So that's the amateur part. But I've had my fun with small restorations. Um, and a little backstory on how I got into all of this in general is my first car was a BMW. So, yeah, not a great first car, but as great as it ever could be for me. And I don't regret it at all. I actually, looking back on it, I think the car was awesome. Then again, I don't have to deal with the problems it had now. Um, Rose tinted glasses. But I think that car really decided a lot of paths that I went down. Because, like I said, it had its problems. It's a BMW. They come with problems. That's just how they are. And to me, trying to fix these problems turned into a puzzle. Watching YouTube videos for hours, trying to figure out why something is happening, and never figuring it out. Actually, I ended up taking it to a shop near the end of my ownership, and well, we'll never know if it got fixed because I didn't have it long enough to test the fix that the tech tried. Um, Basically, it wasn't starting. It wouldn't even turn over. It's not that it wasn't uh, like a spark plug issue or anything like that. When you would turn the key to turn the starter, nothing happened. I still don't know to this day. It was a headache. And the tech at the shop actually said it was something in the shifter, and it's a chip. And they get out of alignment, and the car doesn't recognize that it's in park, and it won't allow you to start the car. And thinking back on it, that makes a lot of sense. So if your BMW has trouble starting, uh, and it's 2004 530i. Did I mention that? I don't think I did. I think I mentioned it was just a BMW. Either way, beautiful car. Angel eye headlights. Didn't appreciate them at the time. Very much appreciated now. Miss the car a little bit. But if you are having trouble with it not even cranking or trying to start, take a look into the shifter and make sure everything's working in there. By the way, look at that. Look how clean that's getting. That's just Dawn dish soap, by the way. Double by the way. I just said by the way and twice in the past 30 seconds. Don't mind me. Or do, because you're watching the video. I used Dawn dish soap. It's not foam cannon soap approved. Maybe it is. Maybe Dawn dish soap puts foam cannon approved on the bottle. I haven't read it. I'm sure real foam cannon soap could work better, but at Extreme Amateur Restoration Specialists, we like the Dawn dish soap. I think it works great for what I do. I'm not looking to get this on the showroom floor anytime soon, at least. Maybe a new hood first, and then we'll get there. But back to the story. BMW had its problems, and I wanted to fix those problems. Never could, but it did. It sparked something in me, and the next car was even more of a headache than the BMW, I'd say. With the BMW, when it was going, it was great. You could see in the background there's a white turd. It's an 89 Camaro RS with the V6. And as a neighbor down the street actually mentioned, the 80s were not kind to the V6 motors. And he couldn't be more right. That motor is a pile of junk. I'm really not sure if there are any aftermarket options available. I don't see why there would be. You've already got a V6 and a 89 Camaro. That classic American muscle piece of the car is gone, so it's an incomplete car, in my opinion. Still looks cool, but sure doesn't drive very cool. I'm pretty sure, honestly, I think a Prius could beat this car. Maybe not. I'm not sure. I haven't checked the 0 to 60 on those, but I'm actually going to compare that. I'll get back with you guys. But that car had its problems too. So even when that car... So both cars had problems. The BMW had problems, but when it was going, it was great. The Camaro had problems even when it was going, which was still rare. Another starting problem. It sometimes the nothing would register, the steering column was out of whack, something was wired wrong, I'm really not sure. It would do the same thing, it wouldn't crank, it wouldn't do anything, and you just had to sit there and wait. This was usually after it got hot, so most commonly what would happen is I would drive to school, and I was in dual enrollment at the time, and so I would come out after an hour to go to actual high school, and the car just wouldn't start. I'd have to sit in a hot parking lot for 10-15 minutes and wait for the car to... I have no idea. But those problems, of course, were still something that I could solve, or try to solve, and videos and videos and videos, and staring at it and saying, oh, I've got an 89 Camaro, I'm a car guy, yeah, I like cars. And it built up, and of course I looked at more cars, and eventually I saw a video on a Lincoln Mark 8. That was no joke. It was a video of it was a modified Mark 8 drag racing. It was pretty sweet. And I looked into them a little bit, and I was like, wow, this is a cool car. And never in my life did I think I was gonna actually end up with one. But what do you know? My dad sends me a post one day on Facebook Marketplace of this beautiful, sweet thing, Hot Rod Lincoln. And I say, no way. $5,000. By the way, which is what we paid for the Camaro. Ripped off so hard. But he sends me this post of this $5,000. And I'm thinking, wow, it's only got 113,000 miles. It looked fantastic. And I said, well, we got to go check it out. Because the Camaro was, at this point, almost causing me to miss school. I mean, it wasn't, like, I couldn't, it wasn't a viable daily driver. I'm sure I could have fixed it, but it had coolant issues and all sorts of issues. It just wasn't worth it at this point. And we thought we could always sell it, back. It's still sitting here, so I mean, we could probably list it for $1,200 and get it gone. But hey, you know what? Does anyone want to buy it? I'm sorry, it's great car. It's got clean title, and there's only been like 3 dead rats in it. So I, you know, I'm kidding. Well, for $1,200, that's actually not a bad deal. It's the body's fine. There is a dead rat, and it stinks really bad, but clean title and 3rd gen Camaro. You can always pull the motor out and swap it with the proper motor. But so this car, we ended up getting it, and I never had any problems with it really. I actually probably, I wouldn't say caused problems, but I did some unnecessary stuff on it. But it was learning, and again, I was into the restoration thing, and I wanted to do something with my new car. So I said, these plug wires maybe look a little old, maybe. Well, I'm going to change the spark plugs and the wires. Because I wanted to, and I somehow hadn't done that yet. And so I ordered $150 worth of spark plugs and wires for no reason, basically, just other than to learn it. And it took like 3 hours. Spark plugs took like 3 hours. It's always the simple jobs that take the longest. But half of that was it was my first time really doing spark plugs, and there were some things that I had to take off, and I was like, oh man. But yeah, this car really, the V8 rear wheel drive really took me down a rabbit hole, and I really grabbed on to, motors and machines are awesome, and I feel so awesome driving this V8. And as the story goes, I got into other things, go-karts and motorcycles, which is the big thing now that I'm into. Motorcycles, you can't beat them. They are the cheapest, most fun that you can have, in my opinion. If you're into cars or into speed, you're not gonna find anything cheaper than a motorcycle that doesn't need a lot of work most of the time and can get you going as fast as you could want. So yeah, motorcycles are great, and that's what I'm into now, and that's the pipeline: restoration, finding things for cheap and enjoying them. Restoration, but amateur, extreme amateur restoration. On my other channel, I have some videos on the bike there. It's a 1976 CJ360, and I actually just got it running officially and driving, and it's been a blast. I had another old Honda 1980 CB650. That bike was a pain in the butt. I did everything I could. Maybe not everything, but I did a lot to that bike to try to get it where I wanted it to be, and I could never. So that was just an experience, and some of it was probably just not having the right tools, maybe, or not having enough motivation, because at some point you do something so many times and it just rots. It just rots. The apple is rotten, and my brain was the apple. So, uh, yeah, that channel had all of the restorations and builds and projects and fun stuff on it, including, like I said, the go-kart earlier, and um, 2 go-karts actually. Scratch that. 3, or I didn't record the one. So 2, I think. One was a pawn shop. I bought it at a pawn shop go-kart for $300. Um, that I got ripped off on that too. It's a pawn shop, of course. The guy was like, "Oh yeah, he's doing donuts in the parking lot." I'm telling you, and it was not a donut cart. I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. And but I believed it, and I said, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "It's probably something simple," and it was just a Predator motor, so really anything was simple. But at the time, I thought it was like simple, but it was actually the piston rings. So, but that was the first time I got to take a motor apart, even though it was just a Predator 212, just a Predator 212. I got to take it apart, and I learned a lot from that go kart, and it was fun. And I probably spent 600 on it, to be honest, when it was all said and done, and then sold it for 300. So I lost $300 on it. But I think I gained $300 worth of experience on that cart, doing diagnosing and whatnot. And then there's another $300 go. Wow, there's another $300 go kart on that channel, which was a real deal. This was the $300 go kart. It was a Baja Dune 150. And the previous owner said that they couldn't get it running. No idea what's wrong. And it had been sitting, and I said, well, then come get it. And I got it, and the night that I got it, I was looking around, diagnosing, whatever, and I found the brake switch was shorted out. Of all things, 2 wires. I unplugged the 2 wires, and it started right up. That was the first time I've experienced a good deal, and kind of that might have been the turning point. That really not my Lincoln. That might have been the turning point where I was like, okay, good deals are really cool, and that's the restoration part of it. When you get a good deal and you're able to restore it a little bit, oh, there's nothing like it. So, back to this channel now. This is the channel that you're watching, and what I want it to be. Well, as you can see here, detailing and cleaning and restoration, and exactly what the channel is called, Extreme Amateur Restoration. I want this to be a channel where you can learn a little bit, whether it's from me talking about mumbo jumbo, like the history of the Mark 8, which I'd like to get into later on in the video, or actually working on things. Like I said, I will be posting the CJ360 onto this channel most likely, and that has content on the clutch, which I just learned how to adjust, and some content on trying to figure out wires, which, if I'm being honest, you probably shouldn't listen to me on any of that, because I did a lot of unnecessary chasing my tail and cutting wires, and unfortunately really ripped apart that bike for no reason. But I learned a little bit, and yeah, you could too, possibly. So obviously, with these long form videos, also what I'm going for is hopefully to help a couple people sleep at night. If you've ever watched you know, a long video because it's late at night, you can't sleep, and long videos sometimes help you fall asleep. I know it does for me, and I figure, well, I've got that problem, why don't I try and solve it for some other people? And of course, detailing is a great way to do this, because it's interesting enough to keep your attention, but you don't need the full uh, brain processing of it. So um, I think it's a good way to fall asleep. I know there's a Detail Geek is one of the detailing channels that I watch to go to sleep occasionally, but I noticed a lot of his stuff is pretty upbeat. So I'm hoping that I can provide a little more of a relaxed um, environment to watch these detail videos in. And it actually helps. This is a great starter video because it's a sunset. And that's pretty relaxing in itself. And I hope you guys like the music. It's Minecraft music. I'm sure, some old timers, if they came and saw the Mark 8, were like, oh, cool. And then they hear Minecraft music and they're like, what's this piano? Maybe some of you enjoyed it, maybe some of you hate it. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. If you hate it, tell me. If you love it, tell me. And we'll do a comparison. So, yeah. Cleaning, restoration, and relaxation. Maybe we'll add another another R in the ears. Ears. Extreme amateur restoration, relaxation specialist. It's not too bad. Don't take that from me now. By the way, I do have a TikTok as well. I haven't really gotten into that before. I just have a personal TikTok right now that I had a personal TikTok that I used to watch videos, and occasionally I'll post a video. But I never really had a channel specific for content. Well, now I do on TikTok. It's the same thing, e.a.r.s. Maybe 05. It might be 05, because I think you can't put a dot at the end of your name, obviously. Yeah, so it's e.a.r.s. Yes. Okay, so e.a.r.s underscore 05. That's the TikTok, and I'm happy I've got a TikTok because now I can post to 2 different places, and obviously long form content like this is only going to be on YouTube, but I can post some shorts there. Hopefully someone enjoys it there. And yeah, not every video on this channel is going to have me blabbering like this, but I figure if I'm gonna do it, might as well do it on the first video. So, yeah, this video basically is obviously the introduction, an introduction on my car as well. I'm sure there'll be more content later on. There's valve cover gaskets are leaking on this, so that'll need to be addressed, and also a PCM problem. Weird, by the way, intermittent just headaches. But that's a PCM. A new PCM is $300. So I can't really get that right now. Probably in the next month I should be able to get one. But the valve cover gaskets, I'm sure I could get those if I really needed them. But with the PCM problem, I'm not driving the car, and that's why the pollen and stuff has gotten so bad. And I haven't cleaned the interior in who knows how long. Yeah, and by the way, my way of cleaning is a little messy sometimes. It can be a little messy. It may not look right. It may not be the way you do it, but I'm an amateur after all. Not Ammo NYC, which by the way is a great channel. Again, tried to watch a couple videos of his to fall asleep too. Sometimes it can be a little upbeat, but it works. This way of cleaning for me works. These are all mine or friends' cars, and if I do get into the professional side of things, of course I'll make it a more professional style. But for now, old poopy shop vac works great. And Dawn dish soap, 10 out of 10. So, um, but that brings me into my next point, by the way. Dawn dish soap, 10 out of 10. You can get a gallon bucket or jug of Dawn dish soap for uh, I don't know, cheaper than one car wash, right? But one car wash can be upwards of $30 to $40. And I know that. I know that because I was paying that recently, not too long ago. I'd say a year ago, less, maybe 6 months ago even. I was paying $20 to $30, sometimes twice a month at the car wash. And that kind of crumbled when I saw my dad get a bucket and a pool brush, almost like it wasn't a pool brush, the bristles were softer, but it was just a big old brush and a bucket filled with Dawn and water. And he washed the truck in the video behind my car. And he washed that truck. I don't even think he really went too crazy on it, but I'd say it looked better than any time that he's taken it to the car wash. And I thought, whoa, wait a second. When has this been a thing? Because I've washed a couple cars, and I've never really thought like, wow, I've never looked at it and said that, wait a second, that's better than a car wash, until he did that. But then it clicked for me. I thought like, wait, let me try this on my car. And I washed my car with a mitt. I got a mitt. I didn't use a glove because of course I watched some videos on detailing after that, and I saw that glove works great. And I got a glove, and I washed my car, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Dawn dish soap, soapy water, and a wash mitt glove. And I don't even think I dried it properly. I think I dried it a little bit. But I just feel like it looked better than any time I've taken it to the car wash. And that obviously made me think, well, why would I take my car to the car wash ever again? Especially because I started noticing things once I consciously realized that paint can be scratched. If you just look a little bit, you can see paint marks, or marks in the paint. And I looked at my trunk, the top of my trunk, and I just see these like just this like wave of scratches and swirl marks, and I'm like, whoa, whoa. This car wash has been doing more damage to my paint. I've been paying the car wash $20 to damage my paint. And I almost passed out. I almost passed out and put a big dent in my trunk with my watermelon head. So, yeah, I don't go to car washes anymore, and that was another piece that has really brought me full swing into enjoying cleaning my car and my girlfriend's car and even the truck and even the Camaro, that piece of junk. I cleaned it with a pressure washer one day, and it had quite a bit of caked on grime and algae, and that was maybe one of the most satisfying things I've ever done. I don't think I recorded it, so whoops. But I think I'll be able to get another video on that because it's been sitting for plenty more time. So anyways, now I mentioned earlier that I wanted to get into a little bit of the history of the Lincoln Mark 8, which is the beautiful car in front of you. So let's do that. Let's talk a little bit about this car. I've got a little stinky little script here. It's gonna be messy. So just what is that? What's that saying? bear with me, but you might learn something. So, everyone says that the Lincoln Mark 8 was the forgotten muscle car. Luxury. Okay. Oh, we're messing up. I'm throwing up all over the screen right now. Everyone says the Lincoln Mark 8 is the forgotten luxury muscle car, and there is good reason for that. So, let me get into it a little bit. The 90s were really kind of a turning point for American luxury cars. Um, it was kind of a transition era. Uh, Cars were no longer boxy and 70s and 80s. It was the 90s now. And these were sleek. They weren't boxy, they were foxy now in the 90s. They were going for more modern designs, right? But in this weird era, there was one car that kind of stood out as a beacon of luxury and performance. That was the Lincoln Mark 8. With a blend of American muscle, advanced technology, and smooth grand touring appeal, the Mark 8 was unlike anything else on the road. Yet, despite its innovation, it faded into obscurity. So, why? Why was the Lincoln Mark 8 Lincoln's last true personal luxury coupe? Well, to understand the Mark 8, we gotta rewind to the origins of the Mark series. The first Continental Mark appeared in 1940, and it was a one-off personal luxury car for Edsel Ford. Now, by the late 1950s, the Mark II had become a symbol of prestige, hand-built with meticulous craftsmanship. And throughout the 1960s and 70s, Lincoln's Mark series evolved, with the Mark III, IV, and V standing as some of the most extravagant cars ever made. Big, bold, and unapologetically luxurious. These Lincolns were rolling statements of wealth and power, and this is exactly what I'm talking. These cars were humongous boxes, and it was no joke back then. If you got hit by one of these, you just turned into like mist. But by the 1980s, the Mark 7 and Mark 8, the Mark 6 and Mark 7 embraced a new era of efficiency and performance. Mark 7 in particular introduced a sportier take with the 5-liter V8 and a little bit of aerodynamic styling. Pretty impressive. I mean, it was the 80s. They were going places. You know, I don't know where, but what is it? I don't know anything about the 80s. I was born in 2005. But Lincoln wasn't done innovating. The stage was set for the most advanced Mark ever, the Mark 8. My palms are getting sweaty just thinking about it. So, the development of the Lincoln Mark 8. In the late 1980s, Lincoln was tasked with designing a successor to the Mark 7. One that could compete with the rising competition from BMW, Mercedes, and Lexus, and obviously Cadillac, which, by the way, most, from what I know, also made great cars. I would love to have an LS400 on this channel, or a Mercedes SL 600. I think that was the one with the V12. Incredible luxury machines. The 90s was a great era for these cars, and I believe it was one of the last good eras, in my opinion, before things got out of control with technology advancements and electric. You know what I'm saying? So, Ford's designers aimed for a sleeker, more aerodynamic coupe. not a boxy one, believe it or not. And surprisingly, the engineers borrowed heavily from the Thunderbird and Cougar platforms, but they didn't just straight up copy. They made some significant enhancements actually. Uh, Enter the FN10 platform. This was no ordinary Lincoln. Here's what it featured: an all-new 4.6 liter dual overhead cam V8 from the upcoming modular engine family. Wow, this motor is no joke. I know about it because I know about it. I got it, and it's got it. Paired with the rear-wheel drive with independent rear suspension, mind blown. What is this, a race car? Nope, it's a luxury coupe. And get this, a sleek wind tunnel tested body with a drag coefficient of just 0.32. I'm pretty sure this was the most aerodynamic car of the era up until the Honda Insight. This might have been second or third. I know that the Honda Insight was the most aerodynamic, but that came out in 2002, maybe 2001, somewhere around there. So I know the 90s, the Mark 8 was a very strong competitor with drag coefficients, and you can tell. I mean, you look at the car and you're like, is that a bubble? Yeah, actually, it's got a drag coefficient of 0.32. Pretty good. Gas mileage was off the charts, even with the V8. I think I got 24 miles to the gallon on the highway and around 16 to 17 around town. So not too bad. Obviously not great, but from a V8 4,000 pound machine, what more do you want? Especially from the 90s. And on top of all of this, it had one of the most futuristic interiors that were packed with all sorts of goodies. And when it debuted in 1993, the Mark 8 was one of the most advanced American cars of its time. So, the design and features were obviously unlike anything of that era. I think it was a stepping stone for things like the Pontiac and Buick Roadmaster, whichever one. The Buick made another bubbly car too. I think that the Lincoln Mark 8 was the real stepping stone, and unlike its boxy predecessors, it had a more swooping, futuristic shape. I always like to call my car a UFO. That's the way I look at it. When I look at my car, I see a UFO alien spaceship, and it actually feels like it when you're in there, and that's one of the things that I love about it. It's got the elongated headlights, long hood, and the fastback rear end actually made it look almost like a European Grand Tourer, more than a traditional American land yacht. And inside the Mark 8 was that pure 90s futurism. It had all the good stuff: digital displays, driver-oriented cockpit, which is, if you guys know, which I hope you know about the Supra. If not, are you okay? That's not to say that the Supra is as hyped as it should be, or Supra is overhyped, but the interior is fantastic on a Supra. And I never thought that there would be a way, other than the Mitsubishi 3000 GT, I think, that has a kind of driver-oriented cockpit. But the Mark 8, excuse me, sorry, I just burped. I'm not sure if you heard that. Disgusting. Get this guy a mint. The Mark 8 with the driver-oriented cockpit was a surprise for me. Like I said earlier in the video, I think I mentioned when I saw the interior, I was like, wait, this car is awesome. It looks a little bit like an old man mobile, but the interior, it looks like a spaceship, airplane. And I always thought you could only get that on the Supra. But no, the Mark 8 does a really, really nice job. And you can see I'm cleaning the interior right now, and you can really tell they put a lot of work into this interior. It looks great. That's one of the things that I will miss when I get a boring regular daily. But um, and unfortunately, the one thing that I do not have in my interior anymore is the stock radio, which was pretty cool. Um, it had a cassette player, obviously, and when I first got the car, I was super excited because I never wanted to have an aftermarket radio. I don't like the way aftermarket radios look, but I do like my music. And the the radio with the cassette player, I was like, oh, well, I think my dad mentioned it because my grandma had used a Bluetooth cassette player before in her old stinking whatever. I don't know what she had, but she used a Bluetooth cassette tape. You put the cassette in and you connect it. You connect to Bluetooth, and the cassette player would play the Bluetooth. That's awesome. And I was super excited to do that, but for some reason it didn't work. The radio wouldn't switch from AM to anything else, and it just, I think it was defective. So I ended up going with the aftermarket option, which, by the way, the radio in there sucks. I hate it a little bit. It works fine. It's got the Bluetooth and all that, but as far as the radio goes, I don't think there's any way to change any treble or bass or anything like that. So kind of a bare bones, and a real shame that that's what replaced the stock radio, especially considering the stock radio matched everything else with its green. This one is now blue. So definitely not matching. But back to it. Along with the radio and the cockpit, it had these couch on wheels seats. You can see it in the video. Those are the most plush, luxurious couches you've ever seen in a car. Just about. Other than the 70s, and, you know, they're really nice seats, okay? I fall asleep in them while I'm driving. And that's not to say that I do that. That's a joke. But also, the climate control in this car, automatic. Pretty sweet. And on top of that, get this, it had a gooch cooler. This freaking car had a gooch cooler. Yeah, I think that sells itself, okay? If your car has a gooch cooler, you know. And all of this was great. But if you put a inline 4 or V6 in this, well, it would have been like an Oreo cookie with no cream in the middle, and maybe instead of cream, like old peanut butter. It just would have been okay. Not really good at all. That's why Lincoln really used their noggins, and they put the V8, the 4.6 dual overhead cam. This was Lincoln's first. This was, I think it was Ford's first 4.6 dual overhead cam in tech, which is basically like Honda VTEC, which is cool because you can actually feel when the Intech kicks in, just same as VTEC. That Intech kicked in, yo. And this motor produced 280 horsepower and 285 foot-pounds of torque. That is pretty good for the 90s. And you can tell when you're driving this car, it's surprisingly quick. And it was really a revolutionary engine. And later on, this motor would power Mustangs and the Cobra and, the Terminator. And of course, it would even go in police interceptors. Um, and funny story, the Gen 1s have a different intake style. It's more of a spaghetti. Like if you've seen a Hemi where the intake, all the ports are in the middle and they go into the cylinders and stuff. And it's kind of neat and tidy. Um, well, that's the opposite. The engineers at Ford were like, let's make this as wacky and spaghetti as we can make it. And I'm sure it provides some sort of um, air help. It guides the air better. I'm sure it does, but maybe it doesn't. But it looks cool. um, and maybe it doesn't actually, because they actually changed it in the second gen, which is 96 through 98, I think, maybe 95. Which is my point is I'm pretty sure you can bolt the supercharger from the Terminator Mustang Cobra directly on to any second gen Lincoln Mark 8s. So that's pretty cool. And excuse me, if you guys are into that sort of stuff, Lincoln Mark 8, they're getting a little more popular. There was actually a video recently of a guy doing some sick drifts. He was tearing up a construction yard or something like that. And it still didn't seem like many people knew about the car. And it's just crazy to me. But yeah, I think you can still find some of these for good prices. It's a shame that it never lived up to what it could have been. But still, the Mark 8 could do 0 to 60 in just 7 seconds, which was a serious feat for a luxury coupe in the 90s. And it had an advanced 4-speed automatic transmission, tuned for comfort, but also performance. It had overdrive, so people loved it, people hated it, but same thing actually. People loved and hated the air ride suspension, which adjusted automatically for optimal ride height and handling. So when you were on the highway, 55 and over, the air suspension would actually lower, and you could feel it. You could feel like the car get lower, and you kind of felt like, oh, I gotta step on the gas now, kind of, because it was like it was just ready to go. And that was really cool. I had the air suspension for the first couple months, and then the front airbags blew because, as any 17, 18, 19-year-old does, they beat on their car. And I sure beat on this car, and it's held up very nicely. Yeah, it's got its problems now, but as far as I'm concerned, the motor and the transmission and the mechanicals are still in really good shape. It's just the electricals that are causing me problems right now. So, I ended up switching to coils, which is fine, but the air ride was really comfortable, actually, and it was awesome to have it lower on the highway. But, many considered the Mark 8 a sleeper luxury coupe, and it could hold its own against performance sedans of the era. Hot Rod Lincoln, that's what a lot of the old-timers call it. And later, the second gens, 1995 to be exact, Lincoln introduced the LSC, the Luxury Sport Coupe, which was a sportier version of the Mark 8. And it featured 290 horsepower, thanks to a freer flowing exhaust, stiffer expansion, that's not right, stiffer suspension for improved handling, unique exterior trim with a monochromatic look, HID headlights, which was actually the first American car to offer them. Pretty cool. And the LSC was a serious contender against European Grand Tours, but again, never really got the recognition it deserved. So, unfortunately, this uphill battle, all the innovations, the Mark 8, it just couldn't handle it. It couldn't handle the time and the market. By the late 90s, the SUVs and trucks were taking over, and obviously diminishing demand for personal luxury coupes. All the parents said, "Wait a second, I need you to take my kids to school. I don't need you to be driving on the highway while your car is lowering the suspension so you can feel like a race car driver." And then no more luxury coupes sold, but they still did. It's just no one wanted a Lincoln. And so obviously Lincoln was shifting focus to its more profitable sedans and SUVs. And the Mark 8's high cost and complex air suspension made it expensive to maintain. And in 1998, Lincoln pulled the plug on the Mark 8 with no direct successor. The era of a personal luxury coupe was coming to an end. And so is this video. So today, the Mark 8 remains a hidden gem among car enthusiasts. It's one of the last great American luxury coupes. Its 4.6-liter dual overhead cam engine laid the foundation for the legendary 4-valve Mustangs, and well-preserved examples are becoming harder to find, but they offer an incredible performance for the price. So if you can find one, look into it. And it was a car ahead of its time, and it's a shame that it never got the recognition it's deserved. But what do you guys think? Should they bring the Lincoln Mark series back? I think so. See you guys next time.